Good morning, everyone. Today we are going to discuss about main group organometallic compounds, and this lecture is in continuation with our previous discussion over the same topic. So, in the previous lecture, the part one of this topic, we discussed about different characteristic of organometallic compounds. Then we saw the nature of a metal carbon bond, that could be the covalent or ionic bond between the metal and carbon, and after that we discussed group 1 organometallic compounds like organolithium compounds, organosodium and organopotassium compounds. So we discussed their preparation properties, and now we will continue our discussion on this topic, that is main group organometallic compounds. So today we are going to discuss the group 2 organometals, and in the group 2 of periodic table we have beryllium, magnesium, calcium, strontium and barium. These are the metals included in group 2. Now if you look carefully, the beryllium and magnesium, they are always known to show different behavior than the other metals like calcium, strontium and barium, and that difference in the property can be attributed to their comparatively smaller size. So in the case of beryllium and magnesium, when they form the organometallic compound, these compounds are generally having the covalent nature. The metal carbon bond is covalent by nature, and therefore you can say that they are actually covalent compounds soluble in the organic solvents, and they resemble the organolithium compounds. So in our previous discussion, we saw that the organolithium compounds, they are also different from the organosodium and organopotassium compound, from the other organometallic compound formed by the same group metals. So again, the difference arises due to the smaller size, and here in this group also, due to the smaller size of beryllium and magnesium, now they actually impart the covalent character to metal carbon bond. Now these compounds of beryllium and magnesium, they are highly reactive in nature, and their properties are very much similar to the organolithium compound. Now moving forward in the group, we have other metals like calcium, strontium, barium, and these metals are having a relatively larger size as compared to the beryllium and magnesium, and we know that when the atomic size increases, it is actually imparting more electropositivity to the metal. So you can see that calcium, strontium and barium, they are more electropositive as compared to their precursors, and due to that factor, their bond with the carbon, it is having a ionic character, because that ionic character is due to the large difference in the electropositivity or electronegativity between the these metals and the carbon. So these compounds are having ionic nature, and like we have seen in the previous lecture that whenever we have ionic character in the metal carbon bond, that actually destabilizes the bond, and such compound, the ionic organometallic, they are highly unstable, and you cannot put them in the you cannot expose them in the atmosphere. They quickly react with the atmospheric oxygen, atmospheric moisture. So these compounds formed by the calcium, strontium, barium, they are ionic in nature, and yet yes, only a few compounds of this type are known. So now moving forward, let us start the topic with organoberyllium compounds. That means the compounds formed by beryllium with carbon. So the beryllium is what? It is showing a +2 oxidation state, which is the most stable oxidation state of beryllium. And we know that it has two electrons in the outermost shell. So when it loses two electron, it gains the stable electronic configuration, and therefore the most stable oxidation state is +2. Now we know that it is already a smaller size atom, and when it attains a positive second positive charge, then in that case again the size reduces, and it becomes a hard center in which the size of the atom is size of the ion is very small, and the charge is also localized at a particular point. So therefore, it has very high polarizing power. And due to the polarizing power, that is the ability to polarize in an ion, generally the compounds, beryllium compounds, they are covalent in nature. So whenever these compounds are formed, the coordination number can be up to 4. So a single beryllium ion can coordinate a maximum of 4 ligands. But lesser than 4 coordination number compounds, they are also known. So beryllium can form organometallic compound with coordination number 2. And when the coordination number is 2 for a metal ion, sp hybrid orbitals are used for the bond formation. So for coordination number 2, we have sp hybridization, and for sp hybridization, the bond angle is 180 degree. So whenever the sp hybrid orbitals are formed, or you can say the beryllium is forming compound in the coordination number 2, they always have a linear geometry. For example, here we have a bis tertiary butyl beryllium, in which you have two tertiary butyl groups attached to one beryllium. So coordination number is 2, and the geometry of the compound is linear. Now another possibility is beryllium forming compounds in coordination number 3, in which 3 ligands are attached to the beryllium second positive ion. So here the possible hybridization is sp2, and the 3 sp2 hybrid orbitals, they are forming bond with each of the ligand, 3 ligand, and the example is Me2Ben Me3. So here the 2 ligands, we have a methyl group, and the third ligand is NMe3. So these type of compounds are also known. They are rare actually. Then finally, in the coordination number 4, the sp3 hybridization is seen in the beryllium second positive ion, and we know that for the coordination number 4, we can have a tetrahedral structure. So square planar structure is not known for the beryllium due to its a very small size. Rather, a tetrahedral geometry is preferred here, and it is very common, and these compounds are generally they have synthesized. So, but the study of the beryllium organometallic compound, it is very limited. That is due to the very high toxicity of the beryllium compounds, and also they are sensitive to air. Like we have seen in the case of group 1 organometallics also, that it is really difficult to deal with them. They quickly oxidizes with even the traces of the oxygen, and even in the traces of the moisture. So even when you are using a organic solvent, you are using polar solvent, you have to dry it also. Otherwise, the traces of moisture in the organic solvent itself, they are able to decompose the such type of organometallic compound. And whatever apparatus, whatever instrument you are using, you have to evacuate all the air present in that, and all the experiment that needs to be carried out in the presence of some inert gas. So it is really difficult to deal with these compounds, and also they are very toxic in nature. So the studies performed on such compound, they are very limited. Now, the organoberyllium compounds, they can be solid or liquid in the physical state, and generally they are very sensitive to air. So their air sensitivity actually reflects their unstability, that they quickly hydrolyzes, or they quickly oxidizes. Then they are known to react with the Lewis bases and also the protic acids. So Lewis bases are those compounds which are able to donate electron pairs, and protic acids are those which donates, which are able to release H plus ions or protons. So for the organoberyllium compounds, polymeric species are also known, and here the association of the molecules is seen. So the extent of the association, it depends on the steric requirement of the organic group. So if you are seeing, if you are studying an organoberyllium compound with a bulky group, then what happened? Then the association will be limited. But for the smaller size compounds, for the smaller size ligand, the association can be extended. So the steric requirement here matters a lot, and it affects the structure of the polymeric species formed. Now here are the structures of organoberyllium compound, and you can see that we have a dimethyl beryllium in which beryllium is attached to the methyl group. So you can see that the polymeric structure can be extended to a huge length, and here n number of groups can be attached. So you can see that with a smaller group, beryllium can exist in a huge polymeric species, but when you further exceed the size of the group from methyl, if you exceed it to the ethyl, then what happens? The diethyl beryllium, it can exist only in the dimeric structure. So that dimeric structure is what? It is when you have beryllium in the coordination number 2, beryllium is attached with the two ethyl groups, and now they are forming a dimeric species. Then if you further exceed it to tertiary butyl group, this is what CME3 is, tertiary butyl group. So here the di-tertiary butyl beryllium, it exists only in the monomeric form. So that actually depends on the steric requirement. If you are using a bulky ligand to form coordination compound with the beryllium, then the polymerization, or you can say the association of the molecule, it is not possible. But with a smaller group like methyl group, this type of association is possible. So let us see the simplest compound here, that is a dimethyl beryllium, and generally it is known to have a crystalline structure in which the compound is showing colorless needles. Then the polymeric structure of dimethyl beryllium, we have seen it, how the different molecules of dimethyl beryllium in which the coordination number of beryllium is 2, they associate together and form a polymeric structure that can be extended to a length. Here the beryllium is what? It is sp3 hybridized, just like the carbon. Carbon is also sp3 hybridized, and therefore the bond that is formed here, it is 3 center 2 electron bond. So these 2 electrons of the methyl group, they need to be distributed between the 3 centers, that is 2 beryllium and 1 carbon. Now they are only soluble in the solvent which are sufficiently strong donors to break down the polymeric structure. So generally they are insoluble in the benzene, and they exist in the monomeric structure in the ether solvent. So the only soluble solvent are those in which the solvent molecule, they are able to break down this polymeric structure. Otherwise they remain unsoluble. Now the second type of compound they are known to us in the group 2 metal are the Grignard reagent. So Grignard reagent, the general formula for Grignard reagent is RMgX, and here this R could be the alkyl group or the aryl group. So if you name them, the RMgX, it is aryl magnesium halide or alkyl magnesium halide. So X can be any of the halide here, but generally the most commonly used type of Grignard reagent is CH3MgCl, in which the X is Cl and R is the methyl group. But it depends upon the type of organic synthesis in which we are using the Grignard reagent. What is our desired product? So we can vary this R group here, and it could be any of the alkyl or aryl group as per the requirement. And these are the most important organometallic compounds known to us, and they are commonly used in the organic and inorganic synthesis. So many reactions of the Grignard reagent with carbonyl compounds, they have attained significant attention of researchers, and they are very important in the synthesis of different type of important organic compound. Now here the Grignard reagent, they are known to act as nucleophile. So what do I mean by nucleophile? Nucleophiles are those which attack on the positively charged center. So here the RMgX group, RMgX group, it is actually it can exist in the R minus and MgX plus type of polarization. So this R minus group, the anionic alkyl group, it can act as nucleophile, and it attacks on the organic compound at a center of electron deficiency. So generally the most common reactions known are with the carbonyl compounds, in which the carbonyl carbon is known to develop a partial positive charge due to electron displacement toward the oxygen atom. So the Grignard reagent, they are generally reacting as a nucleophile, and they react readily with the protic solvents. Those solvents which are able to donate, which are able to release the protons, and the compounds with acidic protons. So they react with them so quickly. They have gained a significant attention in the field of organic synthesis, and some of the chemical reactions are like action of alkyl or aryl halide. They can be used to prepare the Grignard reagent. So the preparation of this reagent is also very simple. Simply the metallic magnesium reacts with the alkyl halide, and what you get a Grignard reagent, that is RMgX. Now, one important thing is this reaction must be carried out in the absence of moisture and oxygen. Even the traces of moisture or traces of the air oxygen, they can actually decompose the Grignard reagent. So, for the synthesis, we are using the polar aprotic solvent because they are known to react with the protic solvent. So, you cannot use such solvent for the synthesis of Grignard reagent. So much of care has to be taken when you are synthesizing Grignard reagent. And what are the solvent we can use here? So polar aprotic solvent like diethyl ether, which are polar but not giving protons. Yes, so they are the polar aprotic solvent. So we can use here diethyl ether or tetrahydrofurane, and the synthesis, it has to be carried out in the inert atmosphere. Now, let us see the reactivity of the alkyl halide with the magnesium metal. So, it has been seen that the alkyl iodides, they are showing the maximum reactivity towards the magnesium metal, which is followed by bromium and then chlorine and then fluorine. So, the alkyl iodide, they are very reactive with the magnesium and form the Grignard reagent very quickly. But the alkyl bromide and alkyl chloride, they're also showing the intermediate activity, but alkyl fluoride, they are the least reactive towards the magnesium metal. Now, as I told you, the monomeric species, they exist in only the dilute solution. Otherwise, what will happen? They quickly associate together and form the polymeric species. So, only a condition in which we can see the monomeric species of Grignard reagent, it is that in the dilute solution we can see them, or in the strong donor solvent where the solvent molecule, they can enter and destroy the association of the molecule. In the diethyl ether, at the high magnesium concentrations, generally polymeric species exist. And generally, because we are using protic solvent, polar aprotic solvent here, the solvent molecules, they are generally they entered inside the structure of Grignard reagent, and the structure normally include the solvent molecules also. Now, in the Grignard reagent, we generally see the solution equilibria and a variety of species present in the solution. So, here the equilibrium position between the Grignard reagent and the solvent, it depends on a few parameters. So, what are these parameters? First thing is steric and electronic nature of alkyl and aryl group. So, it affects the position of the equilibrium. That you, whether you have a bulky group attached to the Grignard reagent, whether it is an alkyl group, a simple alkyl, or it is an aryl, that is an aromatic group attached. So that is actually due to the change in the steric requirement and electronic nature of these groups. Then the second important factor is the nature of halogen. So you know that ranging from the iodide to the fluoride, all the halogens, they have different size and their electron donor power is also different. So that actually affects the ionization of the Grignard reagent into R minus and MgX plus type of species. So this also affects the potential nucleophilic nature of the Grignard reagent. So when you change the alkyl group on the Grignard reagent, or you change the you simply change the halogen that is attached to the Grignard reagent, you can change the nucleophilic properties of this reagent also. Then the third important factor, it is the nature of the solvent. So you, as we know that if you are using a protic solvent, it will destroy the reagent. If you are using a protic solvent, which is non-polar in nature, then obviously the Grignard reagent will not dissolve in it. And if you are using a polar and aprotic solvent, then what happens? The That is the condition in which Grignard reagent will remain soluble. So the solvent molecule, they will enter inside the associated polymeric structure of the reagent, and therefore making it soluble in the solvent. Then concentration, we have seen that monomeric species, they exist when you have a higher concentration of magnesium in diethyl ether. Temperature, a very important factor, and then the presence of impurities. So if the impurities are there in the system, they also affect the position of equilibrium. Now let us see the common reactions of Grignard reagent. So generally they are known to react with acid, which can donate the proton. So here RMgX, when it reacts with HX, here HX is some halo acid. So here X can be it can be iodo, bromo, chloro, fluoro. So here the acid is what? It is some halo acid. And when the Grignard reagent, they attack they react with the halo acid. In that case, you just get what alkanes are obtained. So this R group goes to H, and MgX2 is released. So this RH is what? It is a kind of alkane. So from this reaction, it is very clear that if you change the R group here, you can obtain a desired alkane here. Like if you are taking CH3 group here, you can obtain methane due to this reaction. If you are using C2H5 here, so you will get a ethane out of this reaction. So by changing the R group here, we can get a desired product with this reaction. Similarly, the reaction with the halogen, when they react with halogen, then what happens? You get alkyl halide. And alkyl halide, they are also alkyl or aryl halide. They are actually also known for their potential in the organic synthesis. So in the organic synthesis reactions, you can change the R group on the Grignard reagent, and then you can synthesize the RX, that is alkyl halide, in this reaction. Then the Grignard reagent, they are known to react with the halides of different metals. So they react with the salts, like RMgX reacts with the boron trichloride. And as a result of this, organometallic compounds of boron, trialkyl boron, is formed. Similarly, when the Grignard reagent, it reacts with the chloride of the tin. So tetraalkyl tin, that is another organometallic compound, it is formed. So it is not that they are known for their potential in the organic synthesis, but in the inorganic synthesis for the preparation of metallic compounds of other metals. The Grignard reagent, they are playing a role here. Then their reaction with ketones and carbon dioxide, they are also a very well known reaction. And when the Grignard reagent, it reacts with a ketone. So ketonic, this is carbonyl group, right? And this is formaldehyde, HCHO. So when it reacts with formaldehyde, what happens? Alcohols are formed. Primary alcohol is formed. When you here, you can change the R group, right? And you can prepare a alcohol of your desire. So R group, by selecting a proper R group, a suitable R group, you can prepare alcohol of your choice. So you have to simply react the Grignard reagent with formaldehyde here. Then if you react the Grignard reagent with some with some aldehyde, so this is the aldehyde RCHO here, R dash can be any other alkyl group. So what you get at the result, you get a secondary alcohol here. So this reaction becomes very important when you want to synthesize a secondary alcohol of your choice. You can select the R in the Grignard reagent and R dash in the aldehyde. Then in the next reaction, the Grignard reagent, it reacts with the ketone, and what we get a tertiary alcohol due to this reaction. So when the tertiary alcohol is formed, the two R dash groups, they are imparted by the ketone, and one R is coming from the Grignard reagent. So again, we can control what type of alkyl groups we want to be there in the tertiary alcohol. So these type of reactions, they are extremely useful for organic synthesis, where you have the total control on the desired product. Then in the reaction with carbon dioxide, you see, when they react with carbon dioxide, acids are formed. So again, if you select a proper R group here, you can prepare the carboxylic acid of your choice. By merely changing the R group, you can have a different type of carboxylic acid formed by the same reaction. And after that, let us discuss the organoboron compounds. And in the case of boron, now we have moved one group further. And now we have group 3 metals, and here we have boron, nitrogen, and the boron compounds, they are very well known here. So in the organoboron, boron is forming a organometallic compound with a carbon species, and the trialkyl and triaryl boron species are known here. So, like we have seen here, the Grignard reagent, it can be used for the preparation of organoboron compounds. When the Grignard reagent react with the BCl3, then what happens? Br3, that is trialkyl boron, is formed. So here triaryl borons can also be formed, and generally if you look at their structure, they are monomeric in nature. So they do not form the associated species in the solvent or in the solid state, and the simple reason is because the boron atom is quite small. So the simple reason is the small size of the boron atom that cannot actually it cannot sustain with so much of the crowding in the associated structure. So generally they are monomeric. And how can we prepare them? So one of the very important reaction is, like I told you, when the boron salts, they react with Grignard reagent. In that case, trialkyl or triaryl borons are formed. So here again, the choice of the R group on Grignard reagent, it will decide what type of organoboron compound is going to be formed here. So you can select the R group here, and according to the nature of the R group, you can get a trialkyl or triaryl boron. So in these reaction, you can see we have a CH3 group in the Grignard reagent, and when it reacts with the BF3, so you get a trimethyl boron here. Now the second reaction for the preparation of these compound is hydroboration. And in the hydroboration reaction, we have also seen this in one of the lecture. Here we have ethylene group, and this is a boron containing the hydrogen. So this is actually the alkene insertion reaction we have seen in one of the lectures, that this alkene will be inserted between the metal hydrogen bond, and as a result of this we are getting an organoboron compound. So this reaction is known as hydroboration reaction. Now, moving forward, we have aluminium compounds, organoaluminium compounds. So in the case of aluminium, trialkyl and triaryl organometallic compounds are known. So it can coordinate with the three ligands at the same time. And when you especially talk about the organoaluminium compound, they are highly reactive. Now, what is happening when you are moving in the same period? You can see that the reactivity is going to be increased, and uh, these organoaluminium compound, they are apart from being highly reactive, they are also colorless in nature, or sometimes they are the volatile liquids or low melting solid. So it becomes really difficult for them to form to polymerize and stay in the solid state. So generally they are volatile in nature. Now they ignite spontaneously in the air. So again they are very sensitive towards the presence of oxygen, and they quickly decomposes. And when such decomposition takes place, it is so spontaneous that it catches the fire. So they react also violently with the water, and generally they can only exist in the dimeric form. So here one aluminium is attached with 3-methyl, and two such molecules, they are forming a dimer here. So this is the possible structure in the case of organoaluminium compounds. Now these organoaluminium, they are AlR3 or Al2R6. If they are in the dimeric structure, you can consider them as Al2R6. So they react readily with the ligands to form the adducts like LALR3, where L is some ligand, right? L is some ligand or some group that gets added with the AlR3, and in this manner the dimeric structure is destroyed. So what happens here? Al2Me6, this is the dimeric structure, and when it reacts with the triethyl amine, two molecules. So one of the triethylamine becomes the ligand L here, and it is added over the Me3Al So now this is actually donation of the electron of the lone pair of nitrogen to electron deficient aluminium structure. And when such electrons are received by such electron deficient structure, the dimeric structure is destroyed. And now it does not need to form a dimeric structure, 2 electron 3 center bond. because now it has sufficient electrons available. So these Al2Me6, they are stronger Lewis acid than the organoboron compound. If you compare their Lewis acidity, that is their ability to accept the electrons. So these Al2Me6, they are stronger Lewis acid than the organoboron compounds, and therefore due to their Lewis acid nature, they react with the protonic reagent to liberate the alkene. So this Al2R6, again, it is a very important reagent in the organic synthesis, and when it reacts with some halo acid, then there is liberation of the alkane in the reaction, and we get an aluminium salt as a result of this. So this X would be any of the anionic, like it can be OH, OR, it can be chloro, bromo. So any of these anions could be present here. But due to such reaction, the protons, they are actually gained by the R group, and due to this we get alkane. Now, these trialkyl aluminium, they also react with the halides or alkoxide of the less electropositive metals. And as a result of this, what happens? You see a transmetallation, and there is an exchange of the ligand and halide between the two metals. But the only condition is the metal should be having lesser electropositivity as compared to aluminium. So what are the metals we can use here? So we can use boron, gallium, silicon, we can use germanium, tin. All of them are having a lesser electropositivity than the aluminium. So when you are using their halide salt, MXN, which reacts with the excess of trialkyl aluminium. So the alkyl group goes to the metal because the lower electropositivity of the metal, it prefers to be attached with the R minus group, and the greater electropositivity of the aluminium, it quickly occupies the halide ion and form the corresponding salt here. So this transmetallation reaction, it is very important for the synthesis of organometallic compounds of these less electropositive elements. Now, more main importance it stems for the alkene insertion reactions, and when you perform this reaction, like this ALR, it is what? It is some organoaluminium compound, and when it reacts with the alkene molecules, this CH2 double bond CH2. So what happens? These alkenes, they are inserted into the aluminium carbon bond of AlR3 at 150 degrees Celsius and 100 atmospheric pressure to give long chain derivatives. So long chain derivatives, they can be formed by this type of organoaluminium compound. So this is very much similar to the polymerization of the alkene, right? So what we are getting here, we are getting a polymeric chain of alkene here. So this makes the organoaluminium compound very important in the polymerization reaction. Now let us move forward from group 13 to group 14. Now we have here silicon, which is known to form the organometallic compound, and the organosilicon compounds, they are generally prepared by reaction of SiCl4 tetrachloride, silicon tetrachloride with organolithium compound. So here what happens, because the organolithium compound in which the lithium is what? It is highly electropositive. So it will preferentially combine with the chloride and it will transfer the organic group to silicon. So these are the common methods for the preparation of organometallic compounds of different metals. We have to choose the more electropositive metal with its alkyl organometallic compound, and the lesser electropositive metal should be there with some halide. So when the transmetallation reaction takes place, then the alkyl groups are transferred to the less electropositive metals, and halide group is transferred to more electropositive metals. So apart from the organolithium compound, we can also use here the Grignard reagent, and we can also use organoaluminium compounds for the synthesis of organosilica compound. So here, because the silicon is having a lesser electropositivity as compared to all of these metals, so their preparation is becomes very simple. Then hydrosylation of the alkene, they are also known to form the organosilicon compound. And just like the hydroboration reaction we have seen in the previous slide, here also one of the alkene is inserted between the metal hydrogen bond. And when they are inserted, now what happens? The alkene is converted into alkane group, and it is what? It is the alkyl group now. So you get alkyl silicon compound here. Then we can also prepare such compound by the direct reaction of Rx group with the silica in the presence of a copper catalyst. So you have to take copper metal in the powdered form, and when the temperature reaches to 300 degrees Celsius, the metallic silver in the atomic form, it reacts with alkyl halide, and when such reaction take place, the silicon and the alkyl halide, they are added together, and what we get, Me2SiCl. So this type of organometallic compound is formed for the silicon. Then we can also prepare them by, we can form the polymers of these compound by hydrolytic condition. So hydrolytic condition is when you have provided much of the water here, and you have PH2SiCl2, this type of silane. So when it is hydrolyzed, the 2Cl, they are replaced by the 2OH group, and temperature should be less than 100 degrees Celsius. So what happens, at a moderately high temperature, the water molecule is removed, and after the dehydration, what do you get? You get a polymers. So these silicones are formed due to such reactions. These are because they have silicon, oxygen, silicon bond, so they are known as silicones, and such type of compounds are formed. So they are very much analogous to the ketones which are formed by the carbon. Now, after that, we have organotin compounds, and organotin compounds, they are known to have the structure SNX4 minus NRN. So here, actually, the tin, it can exist in the +4 oxidation state. So whatever amount of alkyl group that is present on the tin, the remaining would be the halides. So overall, it will make a number 4, coordination number 4. So the X would be any of the chloride, Cl, F, O, OH, and N could be anything between 1 to 4. So if you have 3 alkyl groups here, only one halide will be there. And if you have one halide, then 3 alkyls will be there. So overall, the number should be 4 for the tin compound. Now, they are very important for the commercial applications, and this R could be usually a butyl, octyl, or phenyl group. So, any of the alkyl group you can take here, and mono, di, tri, and tetra substituted compounds are widely used. So, when you have a mono substituted compound, then suppose you have started your synthesis from SnCl4. So, here you have all the 4 chloride attached. Now, if you remove the one chloride, you will attach one alkyl group here. So, this will be RSnCl3, and this is your mono substituted compound. Then, in the R2SnCl2, you have di substituted compound. Then, R3SnCl, you have tri substituted compound, and R4SN, then that will be the tetra substituted compound. So, all these compounds in which you can have R of different type, they all have their commercial applications. The organotin compounds are really important, and in the let us see what are the different applications in the different type of substituted compounds. So the mono substituted compound, in which you have only one alkyl group and the remaining halides, they are used as a PVC stabilizer. Then in the di-substituted type of compound, you have R2SnX2, and here you have 2 alkyl groups attached. So they are used in the plastic industry as stabilizers, and they are also used as a catalyst in the production of urethane foam. Then at the room temperature, they are used for the vulcanization of silicone. So these mono-substituted and di-substituted organotins, they have wide application in the polymer industry. Then if you move towards the tri-substituted compound, so this is R3SNX, and these type of compound are used in the preparation of fungicides, bactericides, insecticides, and rodenticides. So these type of pesticides, they can be, they have their origin from these organotin compounds. So again, in the pesticide industry also, these compounds are very important. And the R4SN, it can be used in the preparation of other organotin compounds. So again, they are also very important here. Now, different type of synthesis that can be done using the organotin compound. You can prepare the Grignard reagent, the organoaluminium compounds, and also they are known to react directly with the metal and the organic halide. So these are some important synthetic reactions of the organotin compounds. Now let us see how do we give a name to a main group organometallic compound. So this was about our discussion on the main group organometallic compound. Now let us see the system of nomenclature. How do we name them? So generally there are three different methods for giving a name to a particular organometallic compound. So first of all, see the binary type of nomenclature. So here the nomenclature system is used to name the organometallic compound which is having a salt-like characteristic. Like you can say the metal and carbon bond is ionic in nature. So here the ionic character of the organometallic compound, it is considered as the derivative of the inorganic salt. So how do you name them? Like in the case of CH3 MgBr negative, how do you name it? Methyl magnesium second bromide. So generally they are considered to be the derivative of the inorganic salt. And the organometallic compound which is having the ionic character, they can be named by this nomenclature system. Similarly, for this you can write phenyl mercury second acetate, and for another compound like this we can write down triethyl tin bromide. So their name is very much similar to the salts. The usual rules for naming the substituent, they are huge. So you have a bis trichlorophenyl mercury. This is the thing. So this is the very first type of nomenclature. Then the second type of nomenclature, this is substitutive nomenclature, and the organometallic compound of the main group element, they are showing similarities to the organic compound. So now organic nomenclature rules are used here, and they are named by first naming the organic group with the proper ending, that is followed by the name of the metal. So first you write down the name of the organic group. Like in the case of CH3Li, what do we write? We write methyl lithium. Then for the CH3 twice Hg, what do we write the name? We will first write the name of the organic group. So we will write dimethyl and followed by the name of metal. So it will be dimethyl mercury. So this is again a very commonly used type of nomenclature system. The S and P block organometallic, they are named by either as the derivative of the hydride or substituent in the organic compound. So these two type of nomenclature is possible. So when they are considered as the derivative of the hydride, so this is the first system and it is concept of the parent hydride. So what is the parent hydride? Like here SiH4, it is known as silane and this is the parent hydride. Again ASH3 arsane, this is the parent hydride. Now when the organometallic compounds are formed, they will be considered as the derivatives of this hydride. So the organometallic compound are considered to be the derivative of parent hydride formed by the replacement of hydrogen. So this type of system is used for naming the P block element compound. Like in the case of BCH3 thrice, this is trimethyl borane, and it is considered to be derived from the BH3, that is BH3, that is borane. It exists in the dimeric species, right? So you write it B2H6. So it is derived from that. Then in the case of SiCH34, it is trimethyl silane. This silane represents the SiH4. This is the parent hydride here. Then C2H5 thrice. So this is triethyl arsane, and arsane is the hydride, parent hydride from this from where the organometallic compound it is derived. Then it is the C6H11 twice H. This is dicyclohexyl borane. So borane is again the parent hydride. Then in the second category, we can use the substituent in the organic compound, and according to that, we can name organometallic compound. So name of organometallic compound, it is derived from the organic group attached via a carbon, and these bonds are highly covalent. So the ending E of the parent organic species, it is changed to "-ile", followed by the name of metal without any gap. So for the normal chain, the locant one is omitted. For the branch chain, the locant number including must be cited. So for example, you have this group here. This is the a 5 carbon number chain attached with the sodium. So how will you write the name of it? This is pentenyl sodium. So the organic compound, the original compound was what? It was pentane. And when it was attached to the sodium, now because it has attained a certain negative charge, So what do you write for it? You will simply replace the E of the pentane by "-ile". So it will become pentenyl sodium. So this method is used to name the covalent organometallic having a saturated acyclic and monocyclic hydrocarbon substituent group. So like this BuLi, this is butyl lithium. CH3Na, this is methyl sodium. Then this is ethyl lithium, 2-propenyl sodium, and ethylene sodium. So the organic group, you just name the organic group and you consider the organometallic compound as the derivative of the organic group, and simply when you have E at the end of the organic species, you will replace it by "-ile" followed by the name of metal. For example, this is cyclopropyl lithium, then this is vinyl sodium, dimethyl magnesium, and methyl magnesium iodide. Then we have a coordination nomenclature for the organometallic compound of D and F block elements, and we will also discuss about them in the coming lectures. So here the organometallic compound, they are thought to be produced by addition reactions, and therefore the name is built according to the coordination chemistry rule. So this is very important to note down that the main group organometallics, they are not following the coordination chemistry rule for their nomenclature. So for the transition metals, especially the D and F block elements, the organometallic compound containing and organic ligand, they are named by replacing the final E of the parent compound by "-ide". So this is the CHC, it is methanide, C5H5, cyclopentadienide. The name of the neutral and cationic names are not modified. So these are the references for today's lecture, and that is all from my side for today. And with this lecture, we end our discussion on main group organometallic elements. Thank you so much.